Gather round and welcome back to the weekly edition of Todd Talks College Football Weekly Predictor Show. That's right, folks. We are going into week 11, and it's getting more exciting by the week, just like I told you it would. And here we are getting ready to make the predictions for week number 11. Week number 10, we had another rough week, folks. We were out of the 16 games we picked, we went 7-9, so just under 50% there in week number 10. It's getting real challenging picking against these spreads, and we'll see where we can go here in week number 11. But we're going to start off with the big matchup in the Big 12. We've got BYU heading down to Texas Tech. And Texas Tech is 10.5 point favorites. We got an over-under at 52.5. And I really think that for the betterment of the Big 12 here, I really think Texas Tech needs to win this football game. BYU can afford a loss, and the two of them play again in the Big 12 championship game, and BYU wins that game. In the championship game, which I think gets both teams into playoff pretty securely. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take the BYU Cougars and the 10.5 points in this game, and I'm going to put this over 52.5 here. I think we're looking at a 30-28 type of game, somewhere in that vicinity. So I like over 52.5, and I like BYU at 10.5 here, getting the points on the road. I really do think, again, for the betterment of the Big 12, that Texas Tech wins this one. BYU beats Cincinnati in a few weeks, and they meet back up in the championship game, and BYU wins that game. I think that gets both these teams into playoff, like I said. All right. Let's move over to a ranked-on-ranked matchup here in the SEC, and that is Texas A&M heading to Missouri. Missouri coming off the bye week. Missouri obviously lost Bo there at the quarterback position for the season, so they're starting to back up, but he's already played in a game, and he's had a week of practice under his belt here getting ready for Texas A&M. So we got Missouri plus 6.5 in this football game. We got an over-under at 47.5. And I don't know that I think Missouri can win this game by any means, but 6.5 could be close. So I'm going to take Texas A&M in the money line here in this football game, and I'm going to go over 47.5. I really think Texas A&M is going to be too powerful for Missouri here as the game progresses, and but I think Missouri could keep it closer just because it's at home. So I'm going to, again, Texas A&M in the money line in the over 47.5 here in the Texas A&M Missouri football game. Well, let's move up to Kinnick Stadium in Iowa, and we have the Oregon Ducks heading into Iowa. Iowa getting 6.5 at home. And we had an over-under of 40.5. I understand. I looked at the weather there for Iowa City, and it definitely looks like there's definitely chance for rain here during this football game. 50% as it stands here on Thursday when we're recording the video. So that could definitely hamper the scoring ability, and Iowa can just hamper your scoring ability anyways. And Oregon did not look very good the last time they played in the rain 2 weeks ago against Wisconsin, only throwing up 21 points in that football game. I know Dante Moore went out, and he will be back. So it's very interesting here. I like Iowa in the 6.5. I think it might be better just to alternative spread this to like 7.5 just to be safe. But I'm going to say, since we're talking about the regular books on this, I'm going to go Iowa plus the 6.5 at home. I think Iowa will be able to limit the Ducks' offense some here in this game. I'm not sure if they'll be able to win it, but I think they'll be able to limit it to a close football game. So I'm going to take Iowa in the 6.5. And this is at 40.5. And I really do think that we're really close to that number, but I'm thinking more like 24-21, 24-20. So I'm thinking over the 40.5 here between the Oregon Ducks and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Should be quite the game, especially if it's a weather game. We'll see how that affects the two teams. All right, we're going to move up to Notre Dame. We got the Navy midshipmen coming off the loss last week to North Texas. Did not look very good there against North Texas. Couldn't get the stops against the running game. The problem is Notre Dame has a big running game here. We got Notre Dame minus 26.5. Over under at 55.5. I'm definitely going to pound the over on this because I think Notre Dame's going to be able to put up points. I don't think Navy going to be able to keep up, but I do think they're going to put up some points here in this football game. So I'm going to go over 55.5. I'm thinking something like a 42-21 type of game, somewhere in there, potentially. So with that being said, 26.5 is what Notre Dame's giving up here. I'm thinking about, I don't even really want to play on that line there, but I am thinking about potentially alternating spread this up to just around 29.5, to make Notre Dame beat Navy by 30, which I don't think they're going to do. So I'm thinking about taking that as an alternative, but for purposes of today, I'm just looking at the over 55.5 here, and I'll probably alternative spread that up to like 29.5 and see what kind of numbers I can get on a nice parlay with that. So there we go for Navy at Notre Dame. Let's move to Alabama, and we got LSU rolling in. LSU, they got DJ Durkin coming in as the coach this week after they fired Brian Kelly. We'll see how this whole thing starts to work out here with LSU and Alabama. I just don't think LSU has anything to hang with Alabama. It's minus 9.5 here. Alabama over under 49.5 in this football game. I feel like I want to say that LSU is going to come out inspired and play in this game because it's such a big rivalry, and I don't think they're playing it next year, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be, like an every other year kind of game now. So this will be the last of the every year scheduled games. So, this could be a big win for LSU just to get off the snide. They'd be bowl eligible with this win. It'd be a nice win. Garrett Nussmeier has to play better at some point this year. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and lay the 9.5 and take Alabama here in this game because I just don't think LSU can do all the things I just said. But we'll find out. 49.5 is the over-under. I'm thinking the under here in this football game. I'm thinking something in the lines of 31 to 13, something like that. We'll see. But I'm thinking the under of 49.5 here between that. So I'm going to say Alabama minus the 9.5 and the under. I'm less sure on the under than I am on the 9.5. So if you're thinking of something to do, I'd probably do the 9.5. It's probably going to be the play of the week when it's all said and done here. But I do think LSU could come out and play inspired. And if those receivers and Garrett Nussmeier can actually make some plays in this game, and LSU's defense can hold Alabama's rushing attack down, which Alabama's rushing attack this year hasn't been super fantastic, to say the least. So I think I would give LSU a fighter's chance here in this game, but I'm still going to take it at the 9.5 in Alabama here. All right, let's look at a Friday night game here. We got Tulane traveling to Memphis. We got Memphis at minus 3.5. We got an over-under at 54.5 here. And this is a must-win game for Tulane. And honestly, it's a must-win game for Memphis if they want to get to the AAC championship game. So I'm going to go ahead and take Memphis on the money line here. Lay off the points of the 3.5. I think it could be a close game. I'm going to take the over at 54.5. Tulane's coming off that loss last week to UTSA, but UTSA never loses at home with this coach. They've won like 22 straight or something like that. So I'm not going to put a lot of emphasis on Tulane. They did change up quarterbacks last week, so we'll see where it comes this week. I just like Memphis on the money line, and I like the over 54.5. These American Conference games late in the season can get to be a score fest. So Memphis in the money line and the over 54.5 here in this football game. Let's look at Georgia traveling to Mississippi State. We got Mississippi State plus 9.5 in this football game. We got the over-under at 57.5. And quite frankly, folks, I really feel like Georgia should be a bigger favorite in this football game than they are at 9.5. Yes, Mississippi State, they got their first SEC win in like 2 years or more last week against Arkansas. They have shown up in some games and really fought some teams hard, but I don't think Georgia, I just can't see Georgia letting their guard down this week, although it is a sandwich game in between, Georgia last week played Florida in a rivalry game there, and then they play Texas next week, and they're on the road at Mississippi State. It's got all the makings for an upset. If there was one, this would be the one this weekend that I think could happen, but I still think Georgia's going to win the football game. The question is by how much. I'm thinking about an alternative spread here of taking it from 9.5 to 11.5, or maybe 12.5 to see where I can get to on that. I do think Mississippi State can play it close here. Georgia's defense is just not as good as it's been. If the quarterback and receiver core there at Mississippi State can make some plays. We saw Florida had some opportunities last week against Georgia's defense, just couldn't make the plays. But I think this game is going to be under 57.5 here. So I'm thinking Georgia, maybe on the money line. Mississippi State, alternative spread up to like 12.5, 11.5, 12.5, and taking the under of 57.5, and maybe even bumping that under up to 59.5 just to see. But I think that would be a pretty good pick. All right, let's travel over to Penn State. We got Indiana on the road at Penn State. Penn State at home getting 14.5 here. This is not a whiteout or a night game or anything like that. So Indiana doesn't have to worry too much about the overall environment. Although I do think Penn State fans might come in a little fired up. Could they get an upset? This would be the upset of the year for Penn State. If they could, this would make their season, honestly. They don't have, I'm not saying they can't get to a bowl game, but it doesn't look, they would need to win this game in order for it to occur. So, Indiana minus the 14.5 and 48.5 on the over-under. I really think this game is going to go over the 48.5. Now, the question is, can Penn State keep this thing within 14.5 or even closer, or even maybe pull the upset? I don't think so, honestly. I'm going to go ahead and lay the the points and take Indiana at 14.5. But I do think, much like the Georgia-Mississippi State game, now Indiana doesn't have a trap game coming up behind this, or, they're not in the middle of a sandwich. But I really do think that if there was a game that Indiana could, stumble a little bit, it could be this Penn State game, just because this will probably be the first real matchup. I mean, outside the Oregon game, which Indiana looked great and played well, but this could be one of those talent matchup games here. Penn State's not very good, but they still got talent on that football team, and could they show up in this game? Let me tell you, the quarterback saw Ohio State's defense last week. I don't think Indiana can throw as much at Penn State as Ohio State did last week. And Jim Knowles, as a defensive coordinator, he needs some kind of shutdown here. He did shut down Indiana last year when he was at Ohio State. The difference is he had Ohio State players, and this year he has Penn State players, which some places they're equal and some places they're just not. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the 14.5 here in Indiana. I'm going to take the over at 48.5 here in this football game. In the last game we're going to look at this week, and just because it's the Buckeyes, I'm going to pick them. We got the Buckeyes on the road at Purdue. The Buckeyes have been spread coverers all year. They're minus 29.5 here on the road at Purdue. We got an over-under at 48.5. I personally don't think Purdue is going to be able to score against this Buckeye defense. I think they're going to want to come out and make a statement in these next three football games that they have. They play Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers. I really expect Ohio State to hold each of these teams to 10 points or under. And I think the best chance for a shutout here is against Purdue. I'm going to go ahead and take Ohio State and give the 29.5 here. And I'm going to put the under 48.5 here. I think Ohio State's going to try to win this football game somewhere in the vicinity of 42-3, 42-6, which would put you right a half point under the line, or 42-0. I really think that's the kind of statement they're going to try to make in this game. I think this is a game where they want to get Julian Sayin out somewhere, maybe in the late third quarter, early fourth quarter, and try to rest him a little bit and get the backup the South Dakota kid in there and see if he can get some snaps this season. But I really like Ohio State minus the 29.5. Like I said, they've been covering all year. So in under 48.5, I don't think Ohio State will run this up to a big score. I think they'll get to a comfortable score and let Keenholz just kind of run the ball out in the fourth quarter and let the defense try to get that shutout, or at the worst give up 3-6 points in this game. All right, there we are with the Week 11 College Football Weekly Predictor Show on Todd Talks College Football. We will be back on Sunday, folks, with the 5 thoughts on this week in college football. We're going to have a lot to talk about. We got a lot of things going on. We'll see if we can get some upsets. It could be an interesting weekend, to say the least, especially between this Texas A&M and Missouri, Oregon and Iowa game. We'll see if LSU can come together. We'll see if the Bulldogs can beat the Bulldogs, and that would be the Mississippi State Bulldogs beating the Georgia Bulldogs. And we'll see what Indiana does on the road at Penn State. Still a challenging place to play. So we'll see what happens with all that, and we'll recap that on Sunday's show. Don't forget, we're making a lot of shorts out there, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Like them, follow them, make comments on them, do whatever you got to do. But I'd like to see the growth in the people watching the videos. So thank you very much for that. And remember, gather around in ALTT. We'll see you soon.